We are live. We are live. We've made it to the middle of the week. Hello and welcome to For Evan's Sake Daily. My name is Neodate Evans.
And I'm Nana Evans.
And this is the show where we bring you the news from a parenting perspective. Today on the show, Amazon workers offered a 50p pay rise. Do not ask Greg James and his wife about kids. And the government blocks a menopause law. And of course, not forgetting our parenting conundrums. So let's get into this.
All right.
Around 300 staff have walked out of Amazon's Coventry warehouse over what they call a derisory 50p an hour pay rise.
What a good word.
It's an amazing word, isn't it? I
Derisory.
took great pleasure in saying that. This is actually the first time that Amazon workers in the UK have striked. And they claim that conditions are severe and that they are constantly monitored and reprimanded for idle time as short as a few minutes. And even when they need to go to the toilet. By minute managing people like that, you're going to create like a happy atmosphere, a good culture. Like
I don't think that they don't care about a happy atmosphere or a good culture.
Evidently.
What they are after is getting the minimum amount of staff and working them like horses.
But then you then end up with a higher turnover.
Yes.
And then you then end up having to train people. Your training is never going to be that amazing.
Training is shocking, and I know from people that have worked at Amazon, literally it's like you're thrown in at the deep end. There's never enough people and you don't get paid enough. So yeah, you have a high turnover of staff. It doesn't make sense to me, but because we're in a world where there's so many people that are desperate, there's always going to be workers.
Yeah.
And that's the model. It's like there's always going to be people that are desperate enough to have this job. So then you just keep the rotation going. They fall behind all the time. And what also they do when they fall behind is they bring in managers and the managers have to work in the warehouse. It's shocking that, you know, the man with the business with all the money in the world wouldn't be paying people a really decent wage. So you actually had more people wanting to work for Amazon, like really being like, this is like how, you know, when people talk about John Lewis.
Yes,
back in the day.
Yes. And Google as well.
You'd get shares.
Yeah.
They look after you. Amazon should be that. It should have that reputation. But instead, it is shocking. It's really, really bad.
One of the things that one of the workers was saying in the article as well was that they almost feel that the robots that are working in the warehouse are actually treated better than them. And I think probably, especially in this day and age, if you're getting to a point where your workers actually feel that they're treated worse than a robot.
Yeah.
But also, I think it shows exactly where Amazon is going, the type of company that they are, and where their values lie. Obviously, for them, they just need to make sure that they're getting parcels out the door as quickly as possible. And they don't care how you do it. And I think we probably have to not be naive and realize that in order to become as rich as Jeff Bezos, there has to be an element of not really having empathy towards these things, because you have to be so ruthless, so cutthroat, because ultimately all you're concerned about is the bottom line.
I think this is the arguments that people have about anybody that becomes a billionaire. In order to get there, the amount of humans that would have been paid substandard wages, it's a real thing. And that's why there is such a backlash against people aiming to be billionaires, because there is a real human cost. And you can be profitable. You can literally be running fine on multi-millions and you'd have a great business. But to get to when you're in the multiples of billions, you're definitely mistreating quite a few thousand humans in order to get there.
Richard Branson's a billionaire, right?
I think he is, yeah.
But generally, I don't really hear bad things about people working for Virgin.
He doesn't seem to have the same type of reputation, but he also doesn't have the same type of money. But you see, it's fine, isn't it? Like, he doesn't seem like he's a discontent man.
Absolutely.
And most people, that do work for Virgin have good things to say about it.
I think realistically, if you're a millionaire, and I would go as far as to say like a multi-millionaire, you are able to live a life where you're good, you're happy, you know? And so anything beyond that, it's amazing for you, great. And I don't want to appear as a hater or anything like that. But I think we as a society need to begin to look at what has this actually cost?
Yes. Yeah.
Like in terms of
truly looking at that.
in terms of human lives and how they're living, what has this actually cost us? The fact that I can order something now and get it tomorrow morning, like if I got it in 3 days' time.
Yeah, nothing would probably really change. And if you really needed it immediately, you should be able to go to the high street.
Yeah.
And pick it up. And those are the
But we all know that that's not even that straightforward.
And this is a trade-off that we're all involved in. You know, we purchase from Amazon as well. And that's the thing, because in people purchasing from Amazon in their droves and expecting it to go, you know, if I ordered something now, I could get it at 10 p.m. today.
I absolutely have that expectation now.
But that's at the cost of your locals.
Yeah.
That is the cost of the high street.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're all involved in it in the same way.
We're all complicit. We are.
For Amazon, you have all the money in the world. Pay your staff fairly and treat them well.
And the thing is, I imagine it's really not going to affect the bottom line in such a crazy way.
I don't think so.
And then it's like, again, like you said, why wouldn't you want your workers to be like, yo, come and work here?
This is what they try and sell us in adverts. They have a whole Amazon advertising campaign of people in their uniforms going like, I really enjoy working for Amazon. It's great here.
You are lying.
It's like, it's a lie. Because anybody that works there is always like, I give this a few months, especially when they're on the shelving side of things. But the managers are like 3 years and I'm out.
Yeah. Well, they're striking for a pay increase to £15 an hour as opposed to the current £10.50, £11.45. You know, fingers crossed.
Bare minimum wage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they work hard.
Yeah. It's not an easy job.
It's like
it's not
people
an
are
easy
working
job.
hard. Yeah.
You know, and you're working hard, and then you go to answer a call of nature, only to come back for somebody to be like, well, why was you gone for 4 minutes?
Yeah, because especially if you're on the conveyor belt side of things, the parcels will start stacking.
Yeah.
So if somebody moves, it's like somebody else has to come in. But if you're understaffed, you may not be able to move away because then all of the parcels
I almost want to work in a factory just to experience it.
Just to see. Yeah, the stories I've heard, similarly, there's like a real curiosity as to like, really, this is what they're doing?
Yeah.
But most definitely, it seems like it's horrendous. And that's one side of it. The delivery driver situation is something completely different. So they should start striking as well.
Yeah, I mean, and if there is one group of people that would strike where we would also really feel it, it's Amazon workers and delivery drivers. Like absolutely 110%.
That is very 110%. Very true.
We would be suffering. Okay, so moving on. Greg James, BBC Radio 1 host, he has spoken out about the constant questioning that him and his wife receive, where people are asking them when they are going to have children. They're both in their late 30s.
Okay, so like prime time. Basically, it's like the decade of 30s. You're going to get it.
You're going to get it. You know, and he's spoke about how this line of questioning feels invasive and, you know, it makes him feel uncomfortable. And he's asked people to stop asking them, you know, what their plans are when it comes to having children. Because obviously it's a private matter for him and his wife. This story, when I first came across it, I guess it shows my naivety to an extent. Because, well, not this story, but like when you hear people talking about this thing, because it was such a prominent thing growing up, like in a Ghanaian family, of just being asked these questions. And then even if I think back to when we did Yomo, You Only Marry Once, and looking at it from Mashana's side and the Asian families, we know that there is this massive pressure, but you very rarely hear it coming from like white English side of that pressure to procreate and whatnot have you. And then I was just reading it thinking like, we're all just really experiencing the
it's
same.
a human experience. As people are very insensitive to you having a family, and when they don't see, especially when you get married, they've been married 4 years, 5 years now. So within that time span, I think most folks will give you a year. And then afterwards, it is like, when are the children coming?
Yeah.
And they don't understand how that levels a pressure on you as a couple. And it's just nobody's business. It's just none of your business. Because when the child comes, you're not looking after it. You're not funding it. You're not paying the bills. Like it's none of your business. But people feel entitled to have an explanation as to what you're planning to do.
And one of the things that I learned is that it doesn't stop there. So you get the constant question. Once you get together, you get the constant questioning of when you're going to have children.
Mm-hmm.
And then God blesses you with a child. And then that child now needs a sibling.
Yeah.
So when are you now going to give your child a sibling? You give that child a sibling. And in our case, we've got 2 boys.
Yeah.
So, and I even get it now where people are like, oh, the boys need a little sister.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, why are you
like, you can pick the sex of your children, for one. Like, there could be another boy that comes along. And again, are you going to pay for that child? Are you paying? Are you going to be upgrading the car? Like that? What are you doing to help the situation along?
And it's insane because nobody should feel like pressured into becoming a parent. So you should never become a parent. And I know there are people out there that probably do feel like this, where you realize that you've become a parent. And it's not to say you don't love your kids. You assuming you really love your kids, but you realized, I didn't pick this.
Yeah. Because
I just went along with the flow.
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think you really do have to think about, am I actually even cut out to be a parent?
Yeah.
And all of the sacrifices that come with that. Is that for me? Because it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There are too many parents out there where you're like, you didn't have to do this.
No.
You didn't have to be a parent. Like you were quite fine living your life. And now you're not able to adjust to this change. And yeah, it's not for everybody and it's nobody's business. I'm glad he's talking about it because women talk about it all the time. I'm really glad that it's a man that is also saying it's none of your business.
Yeah.
And using his platform to be like, if we decide to be parents, we're going to be parents. If we decide not to, that's our business as well.
Yeah. I don't know why this is a thing, like just prying into, because essentially you're saying to somebody like, are you guys not having sex? Like it's like really think about what you're asking.
Yes,
and then also what people don't even realize is that when you're asking a couple, especially a couple in their late 30s, whether or not they are going to have any children, you don't know that they're not actually trying.
Yes.
And you don't know that they're not actually even experiencing difficulties conceiving. Yes. And that's a hugely emotional subject, and it's something we spoke about on the podcast. If you're on Spotify, you can go back and listen to that episode where, we struggled to have our first child. We were like, well, we had started IVF.
We had our consultations.
Yeah, we're going for our first consultations. And then for us, just miraculously.
Yeah, managed to get pregnant. But definitely within that time, and we were in our early 30s, but it was constant from late 20s.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had been together a very long time anyway. So people you would be thinking it maybe, but it's just outwardly asking. And it's just none of your business. And that's not even from close family.
No.
It's anybody.
Yeah. You can go to a family party and see an auntie that you barely know and she'll feel no way to ask you.
Where's the children? Why aren't you having children? Just really, and I wasn't in the headspace to be like, we're trying and it's not happening. To see what that response would be. Well, it'd probably just be, eat this, some type of
oh, you're not doing it properly.
Some type of remedy. But it really is insensitive. Yeah. And the more I think people actually say this is intrusive and stop, maybe people will think about it.
Yeah.
Of our generation and up, maybe they'll think about it a little bit more. I know I definitely do. Even when I'm thinking it, I more go into if they want to have a child and I just add them to my prayers.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to ask.
No, it's something that I never would. Like if someone brings it up with me and they want to talk about it, absolutely, we can have that conversation.
Honest, frank conversation, and I will relay my experiences of it being hard. But I'm not asking.
No way. So yes, all you people out there trying to get in people's business, stop asking the question. We don't need it.
Stay out of it.
Stay out of it. Right. So the menopause. The UK government has rejected the idea of including the menopause under the Equality Act. The proposal was made by MP Caroline Dinenage and the Women and Equality Select Committee. The idea was to classify menopause as a protected characteristic similar to pregnancy and maternity. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, no, I think so. I think I'm slightly surprised that it was outright rejected and hopefully it's rejected with reviews. But the article that I was reading, and obviously this was in one of the tabloid newspapers, it was that it was rejected because it may be considered discrimination against men. And I was like, oh, come on.
We are discriminated against.
I was like, come on. But again, it was from one of the rags. So I don't know if that was the reasons. But it's definitely a fundamental, it's a huge life change.
Did it say what? Obviously it said that men feel discriminated, but why? Did it actually give an example?
It didn't go into it. It didn't go. That's why I was
sometimes
like,
these people are writing stuff for bants.
Exactly that. And that was like the headline on it. But it didn't go into, it would be considered discriminatory because of such and such. But your hormonal changes, obviously it's not as profound as having a child. It's not the same as pregnancy, but it is huge in terms of how it can affect your personality, your mood, and your productivity, depending on the person. And that's the same with pregnancy. It's not that stressful for everybody. And that's the same with the menopause. It can be very, very detrimental to some women, and some women sail through it and they're fine. But it's such a long span of time and goes through different stages. I think it would be helpful to have it categorized.
Do depression and anxiety come under that same category?
Yes, it can do. It can be exacerbated by the menopause. Yeah, because the hormone
No,
levels...
I'm talking singly on its own. So they say they want it as a protected characteristic similar to pregnancy and maternity. And I'm saying that I'm assuming that depression is...
Well, that would file under medical because in order to...
Yeah. But then, I'm thinking out loud at the moment. So my thinking is that as a woman, either in the menopause or perimenopausal, this is something that you don't have control over. This is like chemical imbalance, what not have you, right? Which is a similar thing for depression. So why is it being viewed differently? Again, I'm just riffing up.
No, I'm thinking that could have been on the side of we don't need to have a set characteristic.
Because it just comes underneath that.
Yes. If you need it.
But what if you're not depressed?
These are the whole things. That's why it's like, actually, can we just have a categorization for the menopause? Because there are so many different things that come under it.
What's interesting, I do wonder, the people that rejected it, I wonder how many men were on that committee.
With anything, there can be some women that are like, no,
obviously, but I feel like generally when you
look... It did seem like it was a cross-section of parties. And it may be that it just needs to be reviewed slightly. Maybe the age range doesn't span into perimenopausal in your 40s. And maybe it is more later 40s to 56 or something. Maybe it's that really needs to be considered. But I'm glad for now people are talking about the menopause. Because when I was a kid, you just didn't even hear about it. And my mum never said a word. I didn't know until I was in secondary school. And then I think we kind of covered when your period ends, you go into such a thing as menopause. I was like, oh, really? Didn't know that. I don't know when she did it. I don't know when she went through the menopause.
Have you ever even had that conversation with her now?
Yeah. But she was just like, oh, it wasn't so bad. They tried to offer me HRT and I didn't take it. But there wasn't an in-depth conversation as to like, what was it like for you? Yeah, I haven't quizzed her on it. Maybe I need to do that more. But do you think
maybe that's slightly indicative of the era where you just kind of got on with it?
Yeah. All things like that. You know, when I'm asking her stuff, she's always like, you just do it.
You just deal with it.
It's hard to get a self-reflective, like, oh yeah, this is how it is. So, but I will press her on that as well. And I guess for my sister, I'm lucky enough to have an older sister as well, who's just stepping into it. It's like, I can talk to her about it. But it's good that it's being spoken about. People are doing, podcasts on it, writing articles. That's really good for the younger ones.
Yeah, no, I've definitely, I think probably in the last year, actually never really, really thought about it.
Yeah.
Before then, not really had a need to. But I think the more and more people do talk about it, the better it is for everybody, I think. So.
Yeah, it's a huge learning curve because you don't actually know. I didn't know how it would kind of affect me being perimenopausal, having hot flashes. Like, that was a shock one summer when that started. And it's like, oh, okay. And then there are some people that are like, well, I had that for 10 years. And it's like, oh my God, that's probably going to be me. So, yeah, it's just, you just don't know how it's going to hit you. So it is helpful that people are talking about it now. Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to our parenting conundrum for today.
Yes.
So I will read.
Mm-hmm.
The writer is a 27-year-old stepmother who is in a 50-50 parenting plan with her 6-year-old stepdaughter called Becca and her husband called Kevin, obviously Becca's father. Now, Kevin's ex-wife, Wendy, is described as high conflict and has been trying to keep, let's call this woman Jane, from bonding with Becca. Now, Wendy got her car repossessed and she asked Jane if she would drop Becca off at her house. Kevin was at work, was unable to. Okay.
Right, yeah.
So the mum has asked the stepmom, can you drop my child to me? Because
when they're doing the child switch over.
Yeah. Right. So Jane said no. And because of that, Wendy was unable to pick up Becca until 3 days later. All right. Okay. So Wendy is now accusing Jane of alienation. Right. Parent alienation. Now, Jane has a friend who is also a single mum. Mm-hmm. And the friend says that she thinks they should have put their differences aside and let Becca see her mum. But Kevin, thinks that Wendy hasn't got any right to treat them the way that she has and shouldn't expect any help from them. The parenting plan states that whoever's week it is must arrange for Becca to be picked up. And if they cannot find someone, they forfeit their parenting time. Jane also consulted Becca and she didn't actually want to go with her mum.
Okay, so the child was happy to stay.
So the child was nonplussed. So the child was like, oh, okay, cool, I stay here.
Right.
And then even she went on to add that those 3 nights before Wendy came and got the child, she was like, do you want to FaceTime your mum? She's like, no, I'm fine. So obviously there's kind of highlighting a possible disconnect between the child and the mum anyway.
Right.
So yeah, is this the friend right, the single mum? Should they have gone above and beyond? Is it all about Becca, regardless of how Becca actually feels? Because that's still her mum.
No, I don't think so. I think in this situation, that Wendy doesn't have a car and wasn't able to pick up her child. Like, does Wendy have no friends with vehicles? That's a red flag in itself. Like, so the people that you're accusing of alienation should then be, I don't know, rise above that, what they're doing, and bring your child to you. That's delusional to even fit to expect them to do that.
But again, that's from the lens of the parents. Like, you've done this to me, you've treated me this way. But should it just simply be, this is what's best for Becca? We have a 50-50 parenting plan. Becca is supposed to spend her time split between the mum and the dad. So although for whatever reason Wendy can't do it, for Becca, this needs to happen.
No, it's for each parent in this situation to take responsibility for how you pick up the child. Because you're not in a good place with this other side of the family. So then you have to take responsibility so that you're maintaining a relationship with your child effectively. And that is picking them up and dropping them back. If that's how it's stated, this is how it goes. That's what you got to follow. And I don't think you can expect anything from them, because the other side may be like, our child is better off in our house than they are in your house.
You could fully just be, actually, I don't even want the child to go. Yeah.
So if you're not making it easy to spend time with your child,
they're not going to make it easy for you either.
No. And then if your child also really is a bit like, I don't mind not going. Maybe alienation has taken place, but then you have to be spot on when it's your time to pick them up then.
Yeah. And also you have to acknowledge the part that you may have played in this alienation as well.
It's very hard for people to do that, to have self-accountability, that it may not be any type of coercive tactics on the other side. It could just be that you're not parenting effectively and they feel safer in the other house. And it's easy to point fingers and be like, but they never helped me. Why should they help you? Yeah. Are you helping them?
Yeah. So we are saying that Wendy is fully in the wrong.
Get your
and
car,
Jane
get your stuff
nothing.
Together. How are you expecting the stepmother to be helping you out and you've never been nice to her? How does that make sense? Like, It doesn't, like, sometimes people are crazy.
So what if, though, Becca was like, I would like to go and see my mum?
Then her father should take her to her mum.
Okay.
But if they're asking her...
And if the father can't do it?
Well, he could, because they have a car.
No, but at that particular time, all right, I'm adding flavour into it.
Yeah, but it took you 3
Let's just say he's away for 2 days. Okay. So
and the stepmother...
The stepmom is there, has a car, can take Becca.
If the child had literally been like, I would like to go to my mum, then it would be on the stepmom, you're just being petty. You should have taken the child.
Okay. All right.
But if all concerned are like, we're not dropping her, and she doesn't want to go, if you want your child, then you need to find somebody that can drive you there. Get a cab.
I mean,
take the train. What type of...
She did. It just took 3 days.
It's like, how far away do you live that it took you 3 days to get something together to go and pick up your child? What type of craziness is that?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think this is a lesson in all situations, man. You just got to treat people good. Like, you've just got to, like, even when in the depths of your soul, you're like, you might hate this person. Ultimately, for yourself and for your child, no good will come from it.
Just keep it pleasant, keep it civil, and then you can keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't have to be too hard. But definitely, if you are in a tight spot with the other people, at least have transport. And don't ask them for favors.
And don't ask for favors. Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. There you have it. That is our For Heaven's Sake Daily for today, Wednesday. We will be back same time tomorrow with more news, more conundrums.
12 o'clock, join us.
And obviously, don't forget to check us out on the socials, For Heaven's Sake _ on Instagram and Twitter.
Yes. Okay. See you tomorrow.
Bye.